Thank you, everyone, for being here. Sorry for the little bit of a wait that you had for us. So, Dr. Williams, will you go ahead and get started with awards and recognition?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to begin our meeting tonight by recognizing some of our outstanding student writing artists. This year marks the 29th annual East View United Church Martin Luther King Essay Contest. This year's prompt was, what can be done to end gun violence in our schools and neighborhoods? And for the city of Cleveland Heights, now in their 21st year of this essay, poetry, and poster contest, students were asked, how did Dr. Martin Luther King influence the world? 23 CHUA students were among the winners of these contests. Two of our students will read their winning essays for us. First, I'd like to invite Heights Middle School 7th grader, Laurel Bisher. Laurel won first place in the East View United contest.
Hold the microphone down for her.
Hi.
Hi.
What can be done to end gun violence in our neighborhoods and schools? We've all seen the headlines. Our hearts are broken, unthinkable, and terror again in schools. Again, referring to multiple mass shootings where people have been shot, wounded, and killed. Why does this keep happening? Why are so many innocent lives snatched away? It's because adults and elected officials are standing idly by while our future generation gets slaughtered. What we can do to end gun violence in our neighborhoods and schools is act. You might think it would take a month to buy an AR-15, a semi-automatic gun commonly used in mass shootings. Ludicrous. You might think it would take a week to pass background checks. Laughable. You might guess at least 2 days would pass before a gun could be purchased. Comical. The alarming truth, 7 minutes. It took a reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer 7 minutes to enter a gun store, select an AR-15, pay, and leave the store clutching a legally bought semi-automatic rifle. 7 minutes for a sales employee to possibly hand over the lives of 17 of our nation's children. Less than 10 states have waiting periods for purchasing firearms, meaning that many can buy a gun with relative ease, whether that be for just target practice or a more sinister reason. So what can we do? We can look at other nations and follow their example. John Howard, the Prime Minister of Australia, said, "We have an opportunity in this country not to go down the American path," before he introduced a new gun control policy. Gun control is proven to work in several countries, including Australia, Europe, Japan, and Germany. Australia makes future gun owners pass stricter background checks, go through a 28-day waiting period, and have a justifiable reason for wanting a gun other than protection. So why are Americans so slow on the uptake? Because we're unaware. The reality of mass shootings, of hearing 23 gunned down in the news, of having grieving parents beg for change, makes us so immune to horrific events like shootings that we accept it. Change starts with realization. Change starts with a desire. Change starts with action.
Got it.
Thanks, Laurel. Next, Isabella Creighton, a second grader from Oxford, is among the elementary school winners in the contest held by the city of Cleveland Heights.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a leader, not a follower. He believed that all people could work together, that white and black people could be friends, that they could go to the same schools, that they could play together. He had a dream that we could all get along and settle our differences without violence, but with peace. He wanted people to work together. I hope one day people will work together like he influenced the world. He gave the world a dream to believe in.
Laurel and Isabella, we are so proud of you and all the winners for sharing their thoughts on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. Fellow award winners, when I read your name, please come forward to take a group photo and pick out a Tiger Nation gift from the table. Nora Lubbers, Gabriel Malamat, Lena Spock, Ramaya Rawls, and Arthur Schmiedel. Next, in our recognitions, we have our Heights Middle School Spelling Bee winners. Christian Tyson Thomas was a champion for Monticello, and Sophia Muller was Roxborough's winner. Both went on to represent their schools at the Plain Dealer Cuyahoga County Spelling Bee in February. Sophia tied for third place. Their advisor, Beth Woodside, is also here with us tonight. She prepared a few remarks about the bee and spelling program at Heights Middle School. Beth?
Absolutely. I'm close to glory.
We have a chance to admire the Bee Trophy, which was made for us years and years ago by Stu Ferris. I'm sure many of you know Stu Ferris, Super Dad. In 2006, one of my orchestra colleagues asked if I'd be part of a spelling team to spell at the Reaching Heights annual fundraiser, the Adult Spelling Bee. Even though at that time I'd had no previous experience with spelling bees, I was known for my love of words and word games, and I gladly joined the team, being such a word nerd that I am. We had such a great time, we won, that I've been participating in the Adult Bees nearly every year since then. Since it was so much fun for us, I thought, why not see if the kids at Roxborough Middle School would like to do spelling bees too? I was pleasantly surprised to learn that the Scripps National Spelling Bee makes it super easy to run a spelling program. They give us all the materials we need each year. All it takes on my end is a bit of communication and scheduling. So in 2011, we held our first Roxborough Middle School Spelling Bee and the first Roxborough Elementary School Spelling Bee. Each year we have sent one speller to the county bee, and each year I've been very proud of how well our kids have measured up. We have had many top 10 finishers, several third places, and even one very close second place a few years ago. I'm proud that Monticello has joined us for the last 2 years since the middle schools are combined, and therefore this year we had 2 students representing, as you already heard. Very proud that Christian made it to the 5th round, which was awesome, and Sophia tied for 3rd place, which was also really awesome. So very proud of both of you for all your efforts. Lots of great studying and lots of new vocabulary. I can proudly say that every student that participates in the spelling club and the spelling bee learns a lot. Lots of new vocabulary, lots of fascinating etymology, and the speech and presentation skills that go along with speaking at a microphone, which I'm not really good at. My hope is that the spelling program will go on for years after I'm done running it. Hopefully I'll do many more years, but as of right now, the elementary one has already been going on without me. I've been doing just the middle school for the last few years. And I also hope that perhaps you will all attend the next Reaching Heights Adult Spelling Bee on May 1st at the Wiley School Auditorium right next door. It's a great opportunity to come together as a community to support our CHUH schools. And a big shout out to Krista Hawthorne, who's also here tonight. She's been our fearless pronouncer and also very inspiring for the kids, explaining to them how the spelling bees work and easing everyone's tensions and all of that good stuff. So thank you, Krista.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you, students, for your hard work and being a great representation for our schools on such a large scale. So if we could have our winners come up, and we'll have a gift and a photo opportunity. Finally, we have the opportunity to once again recognize a number of CHUA staff members who are going above and beyond to create a culture of excellence in our school district. Our Tiger Team Member of the Month for January. Each honoree tonight was nominated by a colleague, and in many cases by multiple colleagues. We have several of them chosen by their honorees with us that are here with us tonight. So when I read your name, please come forward. From Heights High School, Willis Brown, work lab teacher. From the Delisle Option Center, April White, career-based intervention teacher. From Monticello at Heights Middle School, Sally Masha, math teacher. From Roxborough at Heights Middle School, Rachel Coleman, campus administrator. From Boulevard Elementary School, Laura Preston, fourth grade teacher. From Canterbury Elementary School, Christine Bell, guidance counselor. From Fairfax Elementary School, Darla Batiste, lunchroom aide. From Garrity Professional Development School, Tammy Bisco, instructional coach. From Noble Elementary School, Monique Christian, fifth grade teacher. From Oxford Elementary School, Greg Nelson, intervention specialist, and Kimberly Woods, guidance counselor. From Roxborough Elementary School, Jennifer Thomas, fifth grade teacher. From the Board of Education, Karen Bauer-Blazer, social studies instructional specialist. Congratulations to all of our honorees, and we thank them for their efforts in promoting a culture of excellence in CHUH. Next, I'd like to bring up Caroline Emka from the superintendent's cadre to provide an update on current events at Heights High School. Come on up. How you been?
Hi, everybody. My name is Caroline. I'm a junior at Cleveland Heights High School, and I come to these meetings to do a little information about things that are going on at Heights. All right, so on Tuesday, March 5th, all the students in the district took place in Reaching Musical Heights, which is an event that happens every 4 years at Severance Hall. Kids got the chance to sing or play their instrument on the stage of Severance Hall, which is super cool. We got to be backstage and kind of see how things go behind the scenes. Some kids have never been and will never ever get the chance to perform on the stage again, so that was super cool. And that was March 5th. All juniors took the SAT on Wednesday, March 6th, which is the day after Reaching Musical Heights. So the kids who are in music had a very fun week. And that was administered free for juniors. That's the first time all the juniors have been able to take the SAT. And they all took the SAT. And then that Saturday, which is March 8th, a cappella choir at Cleveland Heights High School competed in the OMEA Singers Competition, which was in Mentor, and we received a unanimous 1, which is basically we scored the best that we could and advanced to states. So we're going to OMEA states pretty soon, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Caroline. And we're going to move to the next item on our agenda. First of all, I want to congratulate all of our award winners. Yes. Thank you very much. I know these meetings are long, so don't feel compelled to stay for the entire meeting if you want to leave. Feel free to do that. It's perfectly okay. And I just wanted to make a comment that Beverly Wright is not with us tonight because she is attending a legislative conference on behalf of the board today. So she's in Columbus. So moving on, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, and we're going to cover the topic of personnel. So we have a number of things that the board has seen. It's been in our hands ahead of time, but it covers resignations, new appointments, changes of status, and leaves of absence. So Do I have a motion to consider the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Ms. Serini.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
All right. So moving on to the next item of our agenda, this is business services, and we're going to talk about the middle school renovation. So George, I believe it's you and Doug and Jack. Come on up. Thank you.
Let's go, bud.
Okay.
Had it there for a minute.
Thank you. Thank you. This evening, we just have an update. So we can go over, we only had 2 change orders that were executed since the last time we met. So I've kind of provided all of the budget updates that we have currently, and then we have some construction photos and construction update that Jack can go ahead and give. So really the change order that we had executed for Monticello was another deduct change order. Before, when we added the kitchen change, we had an air handler unit that we had specified, and as we got into it and started to do some pricing, there were some suggestions that we were able to go ahead and modify the air handler and actually save some money. So that's a return that we have to the project for that.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need more
We
of
don't
that.
get that very
kind we like.
often,
That's
right.
so thank you.
Just stop while you're ahead.
All right, sit down, you're done.
And then for Roxborough, we had gas room structural repairs. As with these renovation projects, when we run into issues, Turner's done a good job to let us know when we have issues that weren't in the project but made recommendations that now might be a time to repair it. So this was a structural repair that we had for the gas line. We had to do some excavation, replace it, and backfill it. So that was the cost associated with that change. Okay. And then this is the kind of the overall update that we have for the projects, kind of letting you know where we are in the construction. We're still tracking very well for the funds that we have available as we look at the changes that have been executed and the changes that we see coming up and where we are in the schedule. And some of the biggest changes that we see coming up that we have added to the budget, just as line items, are the furniture and for the moves. So as the moves come up, we're putting together the bulletin to be able to go ahead and to have Turner, we'll go ahead and bid that out so that we can bring on a mover. And that'll be a large cost that we already have kind of in the budget that we anticipate coming up for a change request. And then also the furniture we're actually going to be able to go ahead and award, but I've kind of put that on your budget so you can see where those funds are. Okay? And then be happy to answer questions, or we can go ahead and have some photos for Jack to go ahead and.
Right now, we are on time and on budget.
Yes.
Excellent.
I would like to thank both you and George for throwing the middle school stage curtains into the project. I appreciate that very much.
Do it while we can still afford it.
Right. Thank you.
So I'm going to, the first photo is Monticello. This is the one of the quarters. You can see that we've installed the new exit doors at the stair over on the left, and we put the drywall, which is the purple material you'll see around there. And then the other photos are just shots basically of ceilings. You can see the ductwork that's installed. You can see that we're doing the ceiling grid in the quarters and also in the classrooms. The bottom right photo is a shot of a classroom. You can see the yellow accent wall. And you can also see that the ceiling grid is going in, and we're starting to drop the lights and the ceiling pads, ceiling tiles. So I don't know how to. Here.
Just touch the button.
Okay. Next is just some roof shots at Monticello. You can see this is the workers. First thing we do is we cut the hole, then we put in a roof curb, and then we set the units. And then the bottom photos are just air handler units and the steel associated with those. So the idea is, I mean, it's quite a bit of work to put those units out. We have to structurally reinforce, cut the holes, things like that. Okay, next, now we're on to Roxborough. And again, the upper left photo is a photo of opening through a original concrete deck that we had to install to put the steel in to support the rooftop. The photo on the right is again another photo of a classroom with the accent wall. The photo on the bottom left is a bathroom that's ready for ceramic tile. Photo on the right is a typical classroom wall. That the corner there up near the window is where the teacher's desk would be installed, and then you can see the two drops running down the wall. Those are the data and power for all the computer equipment and the teacher's workstation and things like that. And then the next photos, those are basically just some interior shots. You can see at Roxborough we were also doing the new stair doors, another ductwork shot, and the bottom two photos are the mechanical room, the boiler room, and the basement. So that's where we are. Does anybody have any questions?
The gas line at Rocks, was it a gas line that you said you replaced? Mm-hmm. So that's something is it the feed line in from the street, or tell me more about that.
The line from the street was fine until about you got to the building, and then there was a series of the old meter set was a bunch of old valves, and some of them had been abandoned over the years because I think they'd switched out the meters over the years. So it was kind of a mess, and some of the valves didn't operate. Some of them we don't think held. So we reconfigured the meter set to clean it up, get rid of the bad valves. Associated with that, the gas came underground and then came into a gas room, which was sort of an areaway outside the building, sort of outside the building footprint. And the structural, the lid on that was bad, and there was leaking. So we done some improvements and waterproofed it. So that was associated with the gas line work.
Leaking gas or leaking water?
Leaking water. Leaking water. Yeah, there's no gas leaks.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Okay. Thank you for that. So that's probably something that was going to need to be done in the not too distant future.
Oh yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So that's good. Okay. And this is the first I've heard about the curtains. So I add to Malia's thank you for getting that in, because that's who we are.
We do have other items that were noted by Turner as they went through the building that were not part of the scope of work, such as some doors, and we're going to be looking at each of those over the next few weeks to see what we can afford to do within the project that's not included in the project. And you should be, if you haven't been notified yet, Caroline is setting up a meeting, joint meeting with both city councils, yourselves, and the BAC for April 17th. We're getting that organized right now.
April 7th.
17th.
She's working on the notice.
I've got it right now, Tour Rocks and Monty with councils.
She's quick.
I thought it was set for the 3rd.
No, it moved to the 17th.
17th.
Didn't the BAC meeting move, and that's why it moved?
It was, we just felt the third week, I think, was going to be the most beneficial as far as progress and lighting, natural light.
Is the BAC going to be doing a tour on the 3rd?
No.
Fund accountability?
I think that's the tour.
I think the tour is the 17th.
Everything's been moved to the 17th.
And you wanted board members and city council people to RSVP to Caroline?
Yes, please, because we're going to ask Turner to provide a lot of safety gear that's necessary for you to tour the building.
Right.
They'll
So
have to borrow from other places.
She'll put out, will RSVP to what?
Caroline,
Caroline sent in that notice, she RSVP to her.
Got it. All right. Will do.
I will not be able to attend. I'm going to be out of town. So that's one spot you have for one of my colleagues.
You have my spot too.
So we'll be able to accommodate everybody. We just need the numbers so we can make sure we have the necessary gear.
Okay, any other discussion for George? Jack or Doug? No, well, thank you. Thank you for the update.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And now for the superintendent's report. Dr. Williams?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Tonight we're looking at two groups of policies. The one group, Group A, this would be the third reading of the policies. There were 10 that we started in December. And then this will be the third and final reading, so action would be needed from the board. You should have received yesterday the edited version of a policy. Malia, you asked me to send.
Yes, I saw that, thank you.
So if there are any last-minute questions on this, I'll be happy to answer them, or we could take a vote on the 10 from Group A.
I poked at that one policy yesterday, or actually it was this weekend, before I wrote you, because that was one which I remembered having, excuse me, stuck a couple notes in the original Google Doc.
Yes.
But then what we received more recently was not a Google Doc. I think it was a PDF, and so I was wondering about whether the notes had been lost from one format to another, or whether there was something else going on that I didn't understand.
No, I do have the notes. It was just easier to send the changes through the one I sent you as a Word document.
Okay.
But I do have the notes, and they should still be in that Google Doc. Because Jody had some notes on there, and you had
Right,
some notes
because
on
we'd
there.
all had a chance, they've been floating around long enough that we've had a chance to fiddle with them a bit.
Right, so we'll consider those in the final editing when we send those to Neola.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments? No. So we need to vote on Group A. So do I have a motion to consider Group A?
So motioned.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Posh? Yes. Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
All right, and the second group, Group B, I believe there are 16 policies. This is the first reading. We'll have 2 more after this. And you did receive this a month or so ago, the hard copies and also the Google Doc with the changes.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Lombardo about Group B?
I will say right now that I have not even looked at them. We've been busy.
I know you have.
Which is why we have 3 readings, so we can catch up.
Yes.
For the audience's benefit, the reason that we put these in different groups, we have to have three readings of them. And as you can see in Group B, there's 16 different policies. There's a lot of reading to do. So we had made the suggestion to break them down and consider them in clusters or groups. So when, we wouldn't be given 1,000 pages to read at one time. So
We really do read them.
We do.
You do.
And it takes a while, but that's why we have 3 readings of them.
Would you mind sending us the link to the Google version of Group B again so that it's not lost down like 1,000 emails down the list?
Not a problem. I
Thank
can send that to you.
I appreciate it.
All right, if no more questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. Now for the treasurer's report. Mr. Gaynor.
We have for your approval tonight the 5-year forecast. You do approve the 5-year forecast on a monthly basis. And there are no changes this month from the previous month. So I wouldn't expect any substantive changes to the forecast until probably May, when we'll know our final property tax settlements and some other things in the budget. We should have some things firmed up and be able to make some changes there. But otherwise, the voucher numbers that are there are the same ones, and we have a good handle on those. So it's just the property tax numbers and some of the expenditure lines that might change come May, but this month is the same as the previous month, and probably April will be the same as well.
So when's your intent to take the $750,000 of targeted savings and sort of apply it to the existing lines?
That would be May, correct, Dr. Lombardo? Yes. So once all the staffing is complete and we have all the retirements and we can see what savings can be gained through attrition there, and then some of the non-salary items, I think the work session in May is intended to be both a session on budget and on that specific item, so that you'll see those embedded throughout the forecast where they will fall out in the next year.
What's the statutory date when we have to either notify staff or collective bargaining employees?
Depends on the staff person, but
I mean, is there a magic?
We do it the So we have to, in the collective bargaining agreement, we will talk with the union 30 days prior to anything that, if there's a RIF of any sort, which we're not anticipating, but we're looking to see where the budget lies and through attrition. That has to be 30 days before board approval, and that would be sometime in April. So we would bring it forward to you May 7th. We'd bring forward to you the budget and where the staffing is, and then on May 21st, the board would act on the staffing.
Will we have a heads up at all on the direction the administration is going with that? I'm a little sensitive because of we're in the process of negotiating with our staff now.
Yeah.
I would certainly like a heads up. I'm sure my peers would like a heads up too on where all that's going to fall.
Sure, we should have more of an idea when we get back from break sometime mid-April, and we can give you that information mid-April. And then there will be some more changes because it's a fluid process. May 7th we'll be able to give you another update prior to May 21st. So sometime mid-April we should be able to give you more of an idea of what that looks like.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Just for the record, Dr. Lombardo used a term, a RIF, and so for folks who are watching at home and might not be as familiar with EDU talk, a RIF stands for Reduction in Force, which is basically the education version of a layoff, which we are not expecting, correct?
Well, we're not anticipating it because of our retirements, but again, it's a fluid process, so I don't want to say for sure, but we're not anticipating a large number, if any.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
When
maybe
will
not.
we be able, one last question.
Get back.
When will we be able to project the effects of the changes of EdChoice World on our budget? I mean,
that
April
is a good
is the hot month, right, when all that starts?
It is, and the applications will have at least those numbers. So I guess the question will be those, all those people that take advantage of any of the voucher opportunities later, like, that we wouldn't necessarily have a firm number for, but we should have a good number to put in the forecast by the end of the year.
Because we're
It's
going to
just
start
Fairfax
seeing
and
those
high
changes.
school
Yeah.
are, it's difficult to project what those numbers are going to be.
So if I may, again, just educating the public, we have received notice that 2 schools are new to the EdChoice list. One of them, Fairfax, is on the EdChoice voucher list because all of this Cleveland Municipal Schools have been removed from the calculus that determines the lowest 10% of the school's performance in the state. There was absolutely no warning that the state was going to change this. This was done unilaterally in Columbus with no warning whatsoever. This was not part of the plan, at least the announced plan. And with the wave of a wand in Columbus, they removed all of Cleveland Public Schools and thereby landed Fairfax in this recalibration of the lowest 10% of the schools. Cleveland Heights High School is on EdChoice next year, because of the graduation rate. Cleveland Heights High School's graduation rate is above the state average. I'm going to say that again. Cleveland Heights High School has been designated an Ed Choice school for one thing: graduation rate. And yet, Cleveland Heights High School's graduation rate is above the state average. The justification, it's not a reason, it's a justification that Columbus has given is that it is a 3-year rolling average, which in this case isn't a 3-year rolling average. It's a 6-year rolling average, because in the middle of that 3 years, there are 3 years of safe harbor. So there are people walking around, graduates of Heights High School, who are currently 24 years old, and their graduation year is being used to determine our eligibility for Ed Choice vouchers.
For next year.
For next year. This is the world that we are trying to educate children in. So, yeah, I think it's just very important that we educate each other and the community on this, because this is the sort of advocacy, these topics are the sorts of topics that we need more advocacy on, and this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about a little bit later in tonight's meeting. But when we talk about these items, it's important to really talk about the decisions made in Columbus that have put us here.
I think it also needs to be said that we as a board collaborated on a presentation that I was fortunate enough to give to the League of Women Voters. It's on their YouTube channel, I believe. It was at the Heights Library last Thursday night. But a lot of detail, a lot of graphs. I mean, it's...
Perhaps we can get that linked to our website?
It's hard to articulate, you know. I mean, it's so crazy unfair, and trying to explain that safe harbor thing. Kids that are 26 years old, you know, walking around, we're being penalized while both 4-year and 5-year graduation rates are above the state average. And by the way, they give us a C for being above the state average.
Yeah, I find it very difficult that in the 3 years that are considered safe harbor years are years we made significant gains, and we're getting no credit for that.
And our staff, by the way, our incredible teaching staff, are equally judged by their 3-year rolling average. These people who come into work and pour their heart and soul out for our children are being, you know, they're having their performance measured by the same ridiculous measures that are imposed on us by a legislature, many of whom have never stepped foot in a public school, and think just because they finished 5th grade, they can determine what needs to be taught and how it needs to be taught in 5th grade. So God bless them all for putting up with it and for sticking with us.
All right, any more comments?
Oh.
On the forecast, we need to consider the forecast. So do I have a motion to approve the 5-year forecast?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
So the next item up on the agenda is new business, and this is a resolution to end the overuse and misuse of standardized testing. Mr. Heinz, will you please, I believe this is something you're bringing forward for us, so
yes,
please explain.
Thank you. I attended a meeting in Columbus, about a month ago. Should we skip and come back?
Go ahead, we'll come back.
That was, it was called by a group in Columbus that was interested in Governor DeWine's campaign promises about his dissatisfaction with how much testing our students were forced to endure. And so while I was at this representing my profession, my colleagues as teachers, as well as the Cleveland Heights Board of Education, this resolution was distributed for consideration, and I have added a couple of therefores at the end that I will identify separately. So bear with me, you know, it's a resolution, so it takes a minute. It's called Time to Teach, Time to Learn. A resolution of the Board of Education of the Cleveland Heights University Heights School District, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, to end the overuse and misuse of standardized testing. Whereas, our nation's future well-being relies on high-quality public education that prepares all students for college, careers, citizenship, and lifelong learning, and strengthens the nation's social and economic well-being. And whereas our nation's school systems have been spending growing amounts of time, money, and energy on high-stakes and standardized testing, in which student performance on standardized tests is used to make major decisions affecting individual students, educators, schools, and school districts. And whereas the over-reliance on high-stakes testing and standardized testing in state and federal accountability systems is undermining educational quality. And whereas it is widely recognized that standardized testing is an inadequate and often unreliable measure of both student learning and educator effectiveness. And whereas the overemphasis on standardized testing has caused considerable collateral damage in too many schools, including narrowing the curriculum, teaching to the test, reducing the love of learning, pushing students out of our schools, driving excellent teachers out of our profession, and undermining school climate. And whereas high-stakes standardized testing has negative effects for students from all backgrounds, and especially for low-income students, English language learners, children of color, and those with disabilities. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Cleveland Heights University Heights City School District Board of Education supports locally developed, authentic assessments as drivers of instruction and more time for educators to teach and students to learn. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Cleveland Heights University Heights City School District Board of Education calls on the governor, state legislature, and state education boards and administrators to re-examine public school accountability systems in this state. The next three are additions made here in our district. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Cleveland Heights University Heights City School District Board of Education calls on the governor, state legislature, and state education boards and administrators to eliminate the use of letter grades to label schools and school districts. And therefore, let it be resolved that the Cleveland Heights University Heights City School District Board of Education calls on the governor, state legislature, state education boards and administrators to cease in their misuse of standardized test scores to take over control of local school districts and to immediately return those districts to the control of boards of educations impaneled by democratically elected members of the community. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Cleveland Heights University Heights City School District Board of Education calls on the United States Congress and administration to reduce the federal testing mandates, promote multiple forms of evidence of student learning and school quality. Upon the motion of Board Member Heinz, seconded by
I second.
President Sereni, and duly carried on the foregoing resolution, may be adopted today.
We have to vote on it. So, Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Well, can we
Is there any
discuss it
discussion?
first?
Do you want to? Oh, yes. Let's discuss.
So it's when we were doing all these superintendent candidate interviews, one of the interesting things that came up was these standardized tests and how unfair they are. And you know, before I was on the school board, I really wouldn't understand, hey, you give everybody a test, it doesn't matter what color you are, what socioeconomic background you are, if you're poor or whatever. You go to a classroom, you learn the stuff, if you can't take the test, you know, you're going to get a D or an F. Well, it's just really interesting as I sort of, grow into this position. One of the examples, a real live example, was a math question, and how the teacher, or I think one of our candidates, was disturbed because her kids understood the concept of slope, the mathematical concept of slope. You can calculate it, you can figure it out just fine, it's great. Well, but the way the question is worded is like, you're on a black diamond, blah, blah, blah. And, okay, I'm a big skier, but it didn't even occur to me in that context that they're talking about a skiing reference. I mean, so here you are. You have to not only know slope, but now you have to understand all these colloquial expressions regarding skiing. I mean, to get an A on the test. Not that I want to say low-income students don't ski, but, how many kids ski? How many really ski? You're measuring how they're performing on the test based on if they ski or not if they understand the concept of slope.
Measure slope.
Yeah, and there's
slope.
example after example that we hear day in and day out of how these standardized tests just aren't fair. So.
Yep. Any other discussion?
I'll just lose my temper.
So, Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Ms. Serene.
Yes. All right, I accidentally skipped over the board president's report, which is mine. So we're going to go back to that. And I just wanted to give everybody an update on the superintendent search. And for those of you who haven't heard, we voted at the last meeting to offer the position to Ms. Elizabeth Kirby from Chicago Public Schools. I want to thank everyone who participated in the process. We had teachers, we had staff, we had community members, we had elected officials, and we got giant binders of feedback, which we read every single word, which is one of the reasons it took us a long time to make a decision. It also took us a long time because we had some really great candidates. And I want to thank everyone who went through the process. It was a really hard decision. I'm proud of the process that we went through. I'm proud of the candidates we brought forth to our community. And I'm really excited about what the future holds. I believe that Ms. Kirby, based on the discussions that we had, that she wants to build on the foundation of what we have. She does not want us to completely start over. She wants to ensure that we don't plateau where we're at and that we continue to move forward. And she was keenly interested in using information to help drive student achievement, but by also reducing the amount of instructional time that's lost due to testing. And that was something that rang very true to me. And I'm not sure if any of my other board members want to comment. I know we did comment the night we voted on the appointment. But if anyone wants to make comments now, I open the floor up for that.
Yeah, I'd like to repeat something I said the other night, which is that Ms. Kirby was particularly struck by the commitment and enthusiasm of all of the teachers and administrators she met while she was here. And that means something tremendous because, you know, coming in as an outsider who's being basically tested by everybody, right? Because the whole point was to put the candidates in front of you, and what she took from her meetings in the buildings was that we have a very dedicated and very enthusiastic workforce who wants very much to see all of our children succeed. So I'm hoping that under her helm that will happen. So, and thank you for everybody who filled in those sheets. They were very useful to us.
She was struck by the enthusiasm of the school board as well. And I went back and counted because it seems like we've been spending a lot of time together.
Yeah.
So, you know, 17 meetings since January.
No wonder I'm exhausted.
And so a lot of work put in by the board, for sure, to make throughout that whole process. So that
was just the meetings.
That was just the meetings, not the work outside.
Then there's the work we did at home, right?
Yes,
oh my goodness.
You did. So.
So after we made the announcements, one of the things I keep on hearing is people are thrilled with the choice, but they're impressed with the process and the fact that we had 4 great candidates. This decision disappointed 3 candidates, and I'm real sorry about that. I mean, we had great candidates, okay? I mean, we were very, very fortunate. But the decision was easy and it was hard. It was very, very hard to look at these 3 other candidates, including our internal candidate, Felicia, who's just spectacular. And then we had to go outside. I mean, it's going to be great. We're not going to restart. We're not going to hit the restart button. We as a board felt that this was the right direction to go. But I really want to thank everybody, especially the 3 that were part of our process that didn't get the job. And I also want to thank my peers. This was difficult, but I really wish Beverly was here because I really, really, really wish that. I mean, we've already discussed this, but say it publicly. I'm so thrilled to be on this board with you guys. This worked very, very well. The consensus, the process, the respect, the stuff that I think everybody brought to the table, it just wowed me. Thanks.
And we're still on speaking terms.
Yes.
It's pretty impressive.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
It was, you're right, Jim. The process was fantastic, and we were blessed by not only 4 incredible finalists, but the whole way. We had 40 people from as far away as Hawaii apply for this position, and try as I did to convince people that we needed to go meet the person in Hawaii. Why not 18? It was a, this is the most important decision. It is very likely this is the most important decision that the 5 of us will make. And all of these meetings, the people who we also need to talk about are our spouses and kids. So I thank them as well as the candidates. And I also want to emphasize to the community that one of the things that I've had repeatedly mentioned to me is this a reset? And you touched upon it, Jim. And the strategic plan does not change. The person, the superintendent who will be overseeing our pursuit of the strategic plan is what has changed, and it will be our job to keep the superintendent on this path. And the new superintendent will bring new strengths and new things that are new to them, new to her. But it is our role to keep ourselves on this strategic plan. And so it is by no means is this a reset, not at all. This is just a new person, a new driver in the bus that is this strategic plan. And I know that I speak for all of us when I give this community my word that the strategic plan will continue to guide this district.
And I think I forgot to thank the students who also participated in the process. And as the person who had the unenviable job of calling all the candidates who didn't get the role, I'm proud that every single one that I spoke with really enjoyed their time here. And they all really were complimentary about our district, about the energy, about the passion that this community has, and the fact that they all commented that we have a board who actually works together. So that's maybe something that they have not necessarily experienced elsewhere.
And
so
a strategic plan that's not just wall art, which it is in a lot of districts. Our strategic plan is what guides us. And that's a very different scenario than it is in many districts.
So thank you, my fellow board members, for being part of the process.
Thank you all.
All right. So we will jump over new business since we covered that, and we will go to the board committee reports. So who will be reporting out on the Lay Finance Committee?
There's,
Did I skip something else?
no, there's a couple things I'd like to bring up that I'd be curious that if we can talk about. I don't know if you would want to talk about them, but are new
Oh, is this new business? Okay. Continue on.
So at the Ed Choice meetings that we've had and the presentations that we've gotten from staff about the high school and how important it is, I mean, if we go back, we look at our graduation rate 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and 7 years ago, I mean, there's an argument to be made we're an Ed Choice because of those years. So graduation rate is really, really important, obviously. And last year around this time when Dr. Dixon was here, she gave us some assurances that we were on track for meeting our goals, our graduation goals for this school year. Can we get some information from staff, to just sort of show where we're at on the progress? Because from what I understand, there's times where you actually have to pull students out and you've got to work with subgroups of kids. So I'd like to kind of see where we are in that process, just like Dr. Dixon shared with us last year. And if staff needs clarity, I'd be more than happy to give them some clarity on that. But I'd really like to sort of see where we're at with that.
Is that something that you're asking maybe Brian to get in touch with Byron on, or?
I'm not sure where it came from, not sure the discussions.
So you're looking for what we think our graduation rate is going to be this year?
Yeah, how are we doing?
How many seniors, how many are on track?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, how are we on track? What does it look like it's going to be? The other issue I had we can talk about for the VAA conversation.
Okay. So who's giving the Lay Finance Committee update?
That would be me.
Okay.
So we had the reboot of the Lay Finance Committee. Meeting went well. I think there was just some groundwork that was laid. These are generally new people, a couple familiar faces that have been a part of school events and committees in the past, and one lawyer who used to do some work for us, so she was relatively aware of what was going on. Scott, you did a great job going over the 5-year forecast, because that's really sort of like the key document. Going over the CAFR, the Popular Financial Report, just sort of giving some baseline information. We spoke a little bit about Ed Choice impact, because right now that is one of the largest threats that we have on our 5-year forecast, and how that's impacting us. I think the goal is for this group to meet on a regular basis every 3 months. So it'll be continually meeting group. and just make sure that, every single meeting we're sharing the 5-year forecast, giving them an update. So this is just another vehicle, so, for members of the community to sort of dig a little bit deeper than what you typically see on a website or on a board meeting, just to get a little bit more validation, just sort of in the spirit of transparency of really what's going down when it comes to our finances. Society.
And the next board committee report is the VAA executive team update. VAA stands for Van Aken Auken. It's an architectural firm that we're working with, and this group is looking at phase 2 of the master facilities plan. For those of you who aren't aware, several months ago the board voted to reopen the master facilities plan due to a variety of reasons, mainly being that that plan was put together nearly 10 years ago and a lot has changed. And we also wanted to look at a couple of things like preschool, and should we go back to more of a centralized model versus having it at different locations. We also have issues such as the bus depot that we will have to relocate at some point. The committee has asked George and Business Services to put together a request to ask for an extension from the City of Cleveland Heights for a couple of more years for the bus depot to stay at its temporary location. And we had a meeting this past Friday, this group, and Molly is on the committee with me, so if I forget something, please jump in and help fill in the details. We've got a lot of data from this committee. We realize we need to synthesize it and put it together in a way that we can update the rest of the board with the information, and also the new superintendent that will be coming in. So that's what the committee is focusing on right now, and I believe we set a goal for June to have all of that synthesized, so we could do some kind of presentation to have a full update. A lot of what we have is in spreadsheets, and in looking at that, I also want to create some charts out of the things to make it more understandable, more visual. Molly, anything I've forgotten that?
We've been working on floor plans of every building in the district and trying to reconcile intended use and actual use of every space, which ones are full-size classrooms, which ones are smaller rooms, where are we using a full-size classroom for something which could be an office, and vice versa. And creating a standardized nomenclature is proving to be much trickier than anybody thought it would be. And it's like, well, we have to all use the same word to describe this object, whatever it is. So that's all happening. It is slow, and there's just a ton of information which we're trying to absorb and figure out what the meaning of it is before we can start getting into any analysis.
Yeah, so we're looking at capacity. So, are we truly over capacity? We're looking at busing and transportation. So we've got all kinds of maps and where children live and heat maps, and there's so much data, and so much of it is interdependent. So we're trying to find a way to make that comprehensible and to help bring the rest of the board and the superintendent up to speed.
So one of the things that was mentioned in the Cleveland Heights joint meeting was the desire to look at more of a regionalism effort, so how some of these decisions would impact both Cleveland Heights and University Heights, and what we can do as far as sharing resources, knowing that we already share sort of a gas depot, we share salt domes.
We're sharing this room.
Oh, yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, the city of University Heights, their council chambers are not ADA compliant, and they are now using this room on their Monday night meetings because this room is ADA compliant. So that was the first probably toe dip into the sharing of resources. And as a, person who's trying to be a responsible steward of the taxpayers' dollars, I would like to see us do more of sharing of resources. I don't understand why we would have 3 separate boardrooms, why we would have 3 separate, many of the things that we have 3 separate of.
Yeah, 3 separate salt domes, 3 separate gas pumps. I mean, whatever we can
Service
do
garages,
to work together.
Whatever we could do to share resources. And, frankly, help the taxpayers not have to shoulder so much of the burden with 3 separate entities.
Absolutely.
So if we can be the driving force to start some of these conversations, then let's be the ones that start the conversations.
Yes.
I also think that conversation is, it's important to, I think, mention that we are at a really nice moment in our community's history.
Is that
Extra
plural?
S's in there?
I went to Heights. In our community history, where we have communities eager to work together and bodies who are very eager to work together, and that's a wonderful, feeling that we reestablished the 3 of us, not just us, reestablished regular meetings, joint council meetings. Those had sort of fallen off the wayside over the past few years. And having conversations about shared facilities is, we're very much at the conversation, however, except for this room's usage. But it's an exciting time to be able to think big and collaboratively with the idea of increasing what's available to our citizens and stretching the tax dollars as far as we possibly can. And I know that all of us are interested in both of those things. So it's a fun time, creative time.
I have another issue regarding the VAA, and that is the preschool task force. Do we have any updates on where we are with that, or can we get some? I know it's been delayed, and I know there's been some good reasons why it's been delayed, but that work is critical in order to get knitted in. I happen to be pointing at my computer screen. I'm looking at the meeting minutes that Melissa sent to us regarding your committee, which I really haven't read yet, but I mean, that's critical. I mean, to do a real thorough job and really understanding, all the dynamics when it comes to our preschool.
Yeah.
I think it'd be real helpful to see where we're at with that.
Beverly, I think, and I are both on that. So, yeah, we'll get that rolling.
Yeah, I
we
mean,
need to get that rolling.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been a meeting yet, has there?
There has not.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Time. It's past time.
Okay. And then the school advocacy committee, who's giving that update?
I'm happy to. So we had our first meeting last night.
Announce who the members are?
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
We had, as I was saying, we had our first meeting last night, and we have 10 members. And begin by, of course, thanking all of them. Ann Sweeney, Dan Babechko, Sharnice Holmes, Jan Ressinger, Lindy Burt, Sarah West, and then we have from the district, we have Scott Gaynor, Dr. Williams, Beverly Wright, and myself on the advocacy committee. And some of the things that the advocacy committee is looking into is how should our district stand up for our students, our staff, our taxpayers, and justice when we are faced with the burdens being placed on us from Columbus and DC when it comes to things like testing, time away from instruction on testing, but then also finances, tying money to test scores, the use of public tax dollars for vouchers, greater conversation in there about the appropriateness of separation of church and state. So this committee will be pursuing issues like that, and then providing the Board of Education guidance as to how the board might proceed in defending our public school district against these onerous mandates.
Any questions?
No, I have a summary of a couple other meetings reports that weren't on this list, if I may.
Great, go ahead.
And it's because I typed it up, so now I want to read it. So,
Go for it.
The Bond Accountability Commission did not meet in March, but we just got a update today, and obviously things are proceeding well. The Council of PTAs is working on revising its bylaws, and they have scheduled an appreciation event in May, and the date escapes me, so I got to find it. There will be a PTA appreciation event on Wednesday, May the 22nd, and that will involve food, awards, and training of some sort at the Delisle Center. Obviously, the Reaching Musical Heights concert was a huge success. I attended the most recent board meeting for Reaching Heights, and besides talking about the concert, they're also looking into ways to support the visual arts at Heights High, and so that's going to be like a future realm of endeavor for them. And they want everybody to know that they're rolling right into the spelling bee on Wednesday, the 1st of May at Wiley. And one thing I wanted to mention from our joint meeting with Cleveland Heights City Council was that the pilot program for indoor swimming at the high school pool is considered to be a tremendous success, not financially, which was never the goal, but in terms of attendance. So the city sold a total of 78 passes of different sorts for the winter swim session, and that resulted in a total of 2,378 swim sessions, something. So that's an average daily attendance of 31 swimmers per time that the pool was open to the public. And that's terrific. That's what we want, is use of the pool. And these, the winter session hours were within the time frame that the building is already open and that we have custodial coverage and things are going on, but it was outside the hours when the pool is being used by our students. So that's what we want. And so I think with this pilot project being a success, there's no reason for it not to continue next winter. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I have
I got a
two?
couple other things I want to say, but go ahead.
Okay, good. You may actually be able to give me the date of one of the things. Here it is. We have got the Heights Schools Foundation Pancake Breakfast, which is not to be missed. That will be on April 7th at 9 a.m. at the Cleveland Heights High School in the cafeteria.
Cleveland Heights High School, okay.
If it's all right for a house date, why not? And that's always a lot of fun and just a great way to meet. And then we also do have, we can all cross our fingers. We have our academic decathlon team is on TV is due to be on TV on March 23rd. So encourage folks to set their TVs to pick that up. Always a fun thing to be involved in.
Do we know what time that is on television? 10 in the morning?
10 a.m. No. Academic challenge.
Who
at
watches
10 a.m.?
TV at 10 in the morning? Okay, I guess I
Okay,
will
I
for the
thought it
first
was
time
an
ever.
evening.
Yeah.
It used to be.
Yeah, it used to be. Okay.
Is this the event where someone told us that we absolutely have to watch it? They can't give us anything away, but you got to watch it?
Yeah.
You got to watch it.
That sounds like a heavy hint.
Well, it's exciting.
And it's our students,
Okay.
so we got to watch it. 10 o'clock in the morning, Saturday, the 23rd of March.
Do we know
That's
what
this
channel?
Weekend. Channel 5.
Channel 5, okay, ABC. All right, a couple other things that I wanted to mention. First of all, Reaching Musical Heights was fantastic,
Oh my
so
gosh,
thank
still-
you.
Still floating a few inches off the ground from that.
I know, and I will tell you, I did send the clip of the finale to all of our candidates for superintendent, because I was like, hey, you got to see this, because I was so proud of it. So, thank you. Also, there was a wonderful benefit for Rocks Arts that Saturday night. That was a really busy week for us. That was another great event. For those of you who didn't know, we had Interview Monday, we had
Rocks
Reaching Musical Heights Tuesday, we had interviews Wednesday, we had interviews Thursday, interviews Friday night, and we had Rocks Arts on Saturday night. So it was a busy week.
And a board meeting Saturday morning.
Oh, yeah, and we have board meetings Saturday morning. Also, I wanted to wish everybody a happy spring break that is taking place next week. So reminder on that. And I want to just get this on people's calendars. Family Literacy Night is going to be Tuesday, April 30th. We are bringing in author Jacqueline Woodson. This is a big deal.
Do we know
So-
what time she's going to be here? Because I put in like a pretend time on my calendar. So I
The
have
event
no
is from
idea.
6 to 8.
Okay.
And it's at the high school, and I would encourage everyone to come. You know, whether or not you have kids in our school district, please come, bring your friends, bring your neighbors. You know, if you have friends whose kids go to other schools, bring them. I want to see this place packed. I hope we have a traffic snarl on Cedar Road that night. I want the author to see what a great place Cleveland Heights is, and that when we bring a big-name author in, that we pack the place. I want it standing room only, so please come, tell your friends. It's going to be a great night.
Tuesday, the 30th of
Tuesday, the
April.
30th, 6 to 8 at the high school. And our next regular board meeting is going to be April 2nd, if anybody's interested in that. Those are all the things I have on my calendar. Is there any other new business? Any other old business? If not, then do I have a motion to adjourn?
By all means, I motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Posh,
Yes.
Mr. Hines,
Yes.
Ms. Serini,
Yes,
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
we are adjourned. Thank you.